a classroom and you are trying to understand the reasons why. So you can give it a twist. So old topic, but a new theory means you're twisting it and turning the old topic into a new topic. You're turning a cold topic into a hot topic by giving it a twist. And start by simply calling a spade a spade. So just say it. And I'll give you an example through an abstract. So once you've decided on a topic, the next thing is you start writing. So the question is, what do you write first? Do you start with the introduction? Do you start with the methodology? Of course, you have to write the abstract first, right? Now, writing the abstract might be easy because it's only 200 words, maybe 250 words. But it can also be very difficult for two reasons. One is you are writing the abstract before writing the paper and before collecting the data. So you're writing in a speculative way. You're not even sure about whether this will be your paper or not. The second reason is it's very, very concise. It's only 200 words. So you have to be very careful about talking about your research question, context, methodology, findings, and implications, these 5 things together in only 200 words. So these are the reasons why writing an abstract is very difficult. But I will show you that it is actually not so difficult in another slide. Do a review of literature. Design a methodology so that it is done systematically. Make sure there is a good alignment between the abstract and the research questions and the discussions. Because you're writing this before data collection and you are doing this at the end. So by the time you finish your discussion, you go back to the abstract and you see that there is a mismatch. It's like, they are not matching anymore. So you have to make sure they match. And finally, return to the title of your paper and see whether it matches with what you've done. Because again, the title is chosen at the beginning, before even you start data collection. So you have to revisit the title. So this is where we start. In trying to choose when and where and on what topic to write, here are some problems. Here are some of the things that make our choices difficult and confuse us and make us like, oh my God, I just give up. I don't want to publish. There are too many options. Okay, so these are some of, and it happens to everyone, but just relax, look at one thing at a time. So these are some of the problems that we have. You choose a topic. How do you know whether it is hot or cold? So for example, I said CLT, communicative language teaching. I wrote on that 21 years ago, in the year 2000. It was a hot topic, and the role of grammar in the CLT classroom. It was a hot topic 21 years ago, but if I choose to write on that topic today, in most journals, the editors would say, oh, it's well written. It's very nicely written, but the topic is too old. It's not hot anymore. The journal, should I aim a high journal or a low journal? Well, if you're a master's student, if you are new to research, you don't need to aim a high journal. You can choose a local journal such as JETLI. Absolutely fine, because it is peer reviewed. Editors will give you comment. There is a systematic way of providing you with feedback. There is a blind review process. So there is no need to aim a journal that is too high and get rejected and then say, I don't care, I'm so sad they've rejected me. I don't want to write again. So choose a local journal like JETLI. Journal impact factor or good readership. Do you want to choose a high-level journal and no one is reading it because it is Scopus indexed and it is not open access, and without membership you don't have access, or you choose a open access journal like JETLI and it has good readership? Local or international? Well, international journals, more prestigious, but if you are writing in a local journal, that might be a good thing as well. All right, sorry, I just had a scratchy throat. Print and open access, as you know, open access journals don't require subscription. You can download free PDF, which means if you publish in an open access journal such as JETLI, more readers will read your journal, you'll get more citations, you'll get more acknowledgement, and your hard work will be available to a greater number of people. So these are some of the choices. Article or book chapter. An article and a book chapter are structurally the same. You know, structurally means how many sections, the length, the functions of the different sections is the same. But the difference is usually a book chapter is edited and peer reviewed by the editor, and it is usually not blind. So the editor will directly speak to you and say, the book is about this, and I want you to make references to the main theme of the book so that we can accommodate your book chapter. So in some ways, writing a book chapter for an edited book might be easier for some of you than writing an article for a journal. And of course, you have conference proceedings or reviews. These are usually not counted. As far as I know, if you present at a conference, even if your article is published, sometimes in Indonesia, it is not counted as a journal publication. Overall, the last consideration is quantity or quality. Do you want to have 2 good quality journal article publications? Or do you want to have 6 poor quality journal article publications? Which one do you think is better? Hakim, what do you think? 2 or 6?
I think in this case, the less is better. In
the
this
less
case,
is better. Yeah, of course. Exactly, Hakim, thank you. So what I'm saying is quality is always more important than quantity. So your university might require you to write a certain number of journals. Like, you know, in order to get your master's, you need 3 or 4 journals, you need your thesis and all of that. If there is an institutional requirement, of course, you have to meet it. But my point is, don't get blinded. Don't get blinded. Don't get fooled by simply having more and more articles and say, hey, I have 5 publications. But these 5 publications are not really good quality publications. It's only a number. It means nothing. So please remember, quality is more important than quantity. And therefore, don't be fooled by alt metrics. What is alt metrics? You know, it is things like Wikipedia citations all the way to, you know, newspaper and magazine and social media, television, radio, blogs, academic media, etc. Okay, so don't be fooled by this. If you use Facebook or Instagram, that's fine. That's a good thing. It's social media. If you use academia.edu or ResearchGate or LinkedIn, these are kind of called academic or professional media, and you can also get a lot of citations, etc. But don't get fooled. These are not the same thing. So, for example, if I get an email like this, and I get such emails all the time, good job, Raqib. Your article reached 500 reads on this article. I'll share this article with you, right? So I got this message from ResearchGate. I think some of you already have profiles on ResearchGate, or you download articles from ResearchGate, right? Some of you do that. Okay, not a problem. But the problem is, this 500 reads actually doesn't mean 500 people have read this article. It only means 500 people have clicked on the link. It means nothing. It doesn't mean citation. It doesn't mean they have actually read it or even downloaded it or paraphrased it or quoted it, cited it in their own writing and then get it published. It's not really like this. It just means click. So please don't be fooled by alt metrics like this. If you do, you are living within an illusion, and that would compromise quality, and that would make you think quantity is more important than quality. So please don't do that. So where do we start? As I said, we start with writing an abstract. So generally, when you are invited to publish a paper somewhere, you write an abstract first. In some cases, you only submit the abstract, not the full paper. And the editor will tell you, okay, the topic of the proposed paper based on the abstract aligns with the agenda of our journal. So yes, please go ahead and write the whole paper and send it to us, and then we will peer review it, right? So we start with the abstract. Now, as I said at the beginning, writing the abstract is on one hand very easy because it's only 200 words or 250 words. But on the other hand, writing the abstract might be more difficult than writing the paper because of those two reasons. One is it's very compact, and the other one is you are writing the abstract before conducting the research, before collecting the data, before actually knowing what you want to say. So you are kind of making up in a speculative way some of the things you think the paper will be about, but later on it turns out to be different, okay? So these are some of the main features of writing an abstract. It's typically written in third person. So in the actual article, you can use first person. I said, I thought, I found out, no problem. But in the abstract, third person, it follows the sequence of contents of the article itself. What is the sequence? I will show you in another slide, the different parts. The abstract should not read like a table of contents in a sentence form, which means it's not like one sentence for the introduction, next sentence for lit review, next sentence for methodology, next sentence for findings, next sentence for discussion, and last sentence for conclusion. It shouldn't be like that, all right? And I'll show you examples. The abstract provides argument as well as content, so it has to be critical. Not just the article is about this, the article is about that, it has to be critical as well. And again, I'll give you examples. Provides logical connections between material included. What are the material? The ones that I mentioned, theories, and I will tell you what a theory is. I will tell you what a theoretical framework is. And then you have methodology, you have the findings, and you have the discussion. So if I ask some of you, and I'll ask you a question just to see if anyone can give me an answer. It's not a trick question. It's a very, very basic question, but it is difficult to answer sometimes if you haven't thought about it, because no one is asking you this question. And yet we are using this term all the time in our writing. So the question is, what is a theory? Can someone tell me or explain to me, not a definition, maybe an explanation, what is a theory? Anyone? You can type in your response in the chat if you want. Okay, so I think no one wants to answer because they think they might not be right. That's okay, because it is actually difficult to answer. Because even with my PhD students, I'm supervising 11 PhD students now. If I ask them what is a theory, they will all give me very good answers. But these 11 answers from 11 students would all be different, right? So there is no fixed definition. It's not like they don't understand, but it is difficult. It is difficult to define or explain theory. Well, guess what? I will give you a definition of theory on the screen based on my own research and writing, and I'll give you the link to that article as well. And finally, the abstract uses a single well-developed paragraph, just one paragraph, not two, just abstract, always one paragraph. And that one paragraph has to be unified, coherent. Coherent means it has to make meaning. It has to be meaningful. Concise, which means it has to be quite tight, and able to stand alone. So able to stand alone means even if I remove the title of the paper, and even if the reader doesn't read the entire article, they will still know what the article is about. Even if they come from a different discipline, even if they are not in ELT or English, even if they are from chemistry, even if they're from biomechanical engineering or any other topic, the abstract needs to be standalone. So in other words, you have to write the abstract in plain and simple language, trying to avoid jargon and terminology as much as you can. And you have to say things in a straightforward manner. And Hakim, you might remember in my LPDP seminar, I mentioned the Bahasa terms, basa basi.
Yeah.
Going
Yes.
roundabout. Berbicara terus terang.
Yes, it is.
Is that how you say it?
No, bahasa basi means like chit chat, like talking.
Yeah, but yeah, not being straightforward, something like that. Yeah.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So in the abstract, guys, we have to be very, very straightforward, and it is a very tight space, so we can't waste words. We have to be very, very straightforward and avoid repetition. So these are the guidelines we need to remember when we write an abstract. But is there any model to follow when we write an abstract? Remember, why am I talking about abstract? Because writing an abstract is the first step. Actually, it's the second step. The first step is to choose a topic. Remember, right? You choose a topic, you know, when you're writing an article, and then you write an abstract. So these are the guidelines, but how do you, is there a model? Yes, there is a model. And this is how you can think when you write an abstract. There are 3 moves or 3 movements when you write an abstract. Regardless of your topic, whatever your topic is, there are 3 moves. It doesn't matter what the topic is. The first one is you establish a territory. It means you claim a particular area and say, all right, this is what the topic is. This is what I will write about. And you will be acknowledging previous research, what has been done and what hasn't been done, but mainly what has been done. So establishing a territory means scoping the research, saying this is in, this is out, this is the boundary. Number 2, establishing a niche, which means you have to indicate something that hasn't been done previously. So indicating the gap. So you can say people have talked about TBLT, task-based teaching, task-based language teaching, TBLT. People have also talked about TBLT in EFL countries like Indonesia, English as a foreign language countries. Previous research has also shown the role of the teacher as facilitator in TBLT. People have also talked about the role of scaffolding in TBLT in Indonesia and other EFL countries. However, very, very powerful word, right? In an abstract, however, is a very powerful word. You say, however, studies have not yet established the relationship between scaffolding and blah, blah, blah in a TBLT class. No one has done this. So that is the gap. And then you say, my article will fulfill the gap, which is occupying the niche. So niche means a space. So you establish a space and then you occupy that space. That space is a gap. No one has done anything. And the abstract will show that for the first time, you are going to do that. Now, one of the 2 articles that I peer reviewed for JETLI, one of them, it failed to do this. It didn't show the contribution. It didn't say what it was doing, right? So we need to be careful. Whatever topic is, your research has identified, it has acknowledged previous research. It has identified a gap and hence the need for the study. And finally, it has filled in that gap. These 3 moves are a must. So in the next slide, I will show you an example of an abstract. I will give you 2 minutes to take a look at it and try to remember these 3 moves, move 1, move 2, move 3, and see if you can recognize which part is which move, all right? So move 1, establishing a territory, move 2, establishing a niche, and move 3, occupying the niche. So let's take a look together. I know it's too long, just take a very quick look and see if you can identify these 3 moves. Okay. So because we don't have enough time, I'm not expecting you to read all of it. If we were doing this in a classroom or in a whole room together, like a stadium general, we would have done it in a workshop way, not in a seminar way. But because we are doing it in Zoom, let me give you the answer. So don't worry about it. So remember the 3 moves, right? You remember the 3 moves?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. If you look at the color coding, the first 2 moves are the shortest. It's only 1 sentence. The third move, which is occupying the niche, this one, this is the longest. Okay. So the point here is one of the mistakes writers make when they write an abstract is proportionately they reverse this model. They spend more time on move 1 or more space on move 1, and they spend the least space for the third move. It should be the other way around. Okay, so you should spend only 1 or 2 sentences for this, 1 or 2 sentences for this, and the rest of it would be occupying the niche. So that would include everything from contribution to implication and findings, because the contribution and implications are based on the findings, right? Okay, but usually people do the other way around. So make sure proportionately move number 3 is more than half of the entire abstract. This is very important. So again, in my next slide, I will give you an example of putting all of these together, more or less, except for the last part, squeezing everything together into 1 single sentence. Is it possible? Now, this is my challenge to you. I want you tonight, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe on Sunday, each of you in this room, and Hakim will check. If you don't do it, Hakim will fail you in your exam, right, Hakim? It's like a homework. The challenge that I'm giving you is, can you write 1 sentence where you can describe an entire research project or an article, you know, the topic, the gap, you know, the methodology and the study design, as much as you can in only 1 sentence. So this is not a workshop, it's like a seminar. So we won't be doing it here, but I'll give you an example. And this is a homework. There we go. Can you write a sentence like this? So number 1, remember, number 1, choose a topic, right? Number 1, choose a topic. And then number 2, write an abstract. When you think about choosing a topic, remember what I said. Think about something that you have already written about. Think about something that you have already read a lot about. Think about something that you already know a lot about, not something new. I mean, it's cool, but you don't know about it. Don't choose something because your best friend has chosen it, because maybe you don't even care about it. Choose something that you really, really care about. And then write the abstract, right? And then do the data collection and everything else. So all I'm asking you, choose a topic that you're thinking about when you're thinking about your thesis or publishing for JETLI, and write 1 sentence that would say everything. Just force yourself. Here we go. Take a look. I know it's a long sentence. I want you to read it very carefully and see how many things are packed in.
It's very concise.
It's very concise. Hakim, any other comments? Would you think generally it would be difficult to write a sentence like this, Hakim?
Yeah, I think so. including reading this sentence,
Yeah.
understanding, understand this sentence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So see, writing this sentence, this type of sentence has two challenges. One, of course, is the mechanical challenge of writing a long sentence in a foreign language like English, which is grammatically correct and there is no mistake in it. So that's the mechanical side of it. But the second challenge is to pack all the ideas in one sentence. I mean, if I ask you to paraphrase this sentence using 2 or 3 or 4 sentences, everyone in this room can do it. Everyone in this room can do it. So the challenges are two things. One is packing everything in one sentence, and the other one is the mechanics of the grammar. Okay. Now, in real life, in a real abstract, you don't need to do this because there is no limit to the number of sentences. There is only a limit to the number of words. 200 words or 250 words for an abstract, but you can write as many sentences as you want. But the reason why I'm challenging you to write one sentence is because this challenge will force you to squeeze in everything together, and this would really benefit you in scoping your research, in scoping methodology. So if you look at it, it tells you about, so I'm just going from, you look at my cursor here. So the approach, the epistemology, the methodology, it's already there, okay? The aim, number 4, it's already there. The context is already there, number 6. And then the focus, number 7. And then the methods, dialogues, semi-structured interviews, number 8. And this as well, number 8. And then the objective, what extent the practice is perceived, number 9. There are 9 different things squeezed into one single sentence. Now, you can use 2 or 3 sentences, not a problem. But if you can follow this format and force yourself to say these 9 things, the rest will be easier because you're just unpacking those 9 things in 9 different sections. 9 different sections of your paper. So if you can do this, the rest becomes easier. Now, I'm not saying the rest would be automatic because you have to do your reading, analyze data, discuss all of that. But try this challenge and see how easy it becomes and how much focused you are. In your writing, you will feel much more focused once you've done this. So raise your hand to show me how many of you are taking up my challenge. Raise your hand. How many of you want to try this challenge? Come on, guys. Raise your hands. All right. Yes. Laili has raised her hand. Who else? Hakim, come on. What about you? Suchiyati will do it as well. Who else? Come on. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take it. I'll take it.
3 participants. All right. That's good. Yeah. Okay. And who else? Eva will do it as well. Very good. I just want to give you a chance to see that you are much better than you think. So you just have to challenge yourself. And if you challenge yourself, you will see that you're doing much better than you think. So one of the problems I mentioned a little while ago, even with PhD students, is that, it's like I have to use theories, yes, but what is a theory, right? And I said, if I ask 10 students, they will give me 10 different answers. It's not like they're wrong, but it's very difficult. So here is my definition of theory. And I don't want to explain it now because I want to move on to the practicalities of writing a journal. Okay. And that's why I won't explain this now. This is but I'll give you the reference where you can get this definition. And then the second question is, what is a theoretical framework? Because, my lecturer says, I need a theoretical framework in my thesis. I need a theoretical framework in my journal article. So is a theoretical framework same thing? Is a theoretical framework just putting together 2 or 3 theories? No. This is what a theoretical framework is. Okay, again, this is my definition. You can use it in your writing if you want. All right, so we don't have much time. So again, I won't explain this. So where do you get these 2 definitions? You can get them from this article here, which I recommend all of you to read. if you are new in research, and if you're still writing your first, second, or third article, it is open access. So if you click on this link, you will be able to download the PDF for free, the full article. There is a short link. You can simply try this. If you put this in your browser, bit.ly first pub, you will be able to download the article. In this article, I define not only theoretical framework, conceptual framework, but also ontology, epistemology, methodology, axiology, all of these things I explain in this article. All right, moving on. So what is the common format, the structure of a research article? Usually it has 6 sections. I think we all know that: introduction, review of literature, methodology, data analysis, discussion, conclusion. We all know that. So one of the things Hakim wanted me to talk about was the functionality of each of these aspects in a generic way, so that when you submit an article to a journal, you know how to divide it and how to sequence it. All right. So in the next few slides, I will take you through each of these sections and look at some of the features of these sections. All right. Before that, I just want to say that a very easy way of understanding the sequencing of these 5 or 6 sections would be looking at what kind of question they answer. So introduction is what? Introduction section. Review of literature is why, identifying the gap. We are doing it because there is a gap. Methodology is how. How am I going to do it? How will I collect data? How will I analyze data? What are the ethics of it? Things like that. And then analysis again is what. But instead of focusing on the background or the context, this time the what is about what the participants have told you or what the data is telling you. And finally, discussion and conclusion. So what? Implications, right? What it means. So if you think about this, it's another way of sequencing the different sections in a journal. So now let's take a look at the different sections. Now, in the next 4 or 5 slides, I will show you the things that we need to have in each of these 4 or 5 sections, but I am not going to read out all these things. I want you to look at these because these are very basic. I will only talk about 1 or 2 main points. The rest I'm not going to read out, but on the basis of what you're seeing on the screen, I want you to ask me questions. So for example, right now we are looking at the introduction section of an article in a journal, or it's the same. You're looking at the introduction of your thesis, your master's thesis, because functionally they do exactly the same thing, whether it is a thesis or an article or a book chapter, is the same thing. Right? So take a look and tell me if there's anything you'd like me to explain in detail or give me an example from the introduction. Any questions, you can type it in the chat box or you can raise your hand, not a problem. So you can use this list as a checklist. This is a checklist of items. You can print it out, and when you're writing the introduction, which you will do after writing the abstract, not before, after, you can tick off each of these items saying, yes, 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 I've done all of this. Any questions? Okay, Suciati? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Raqib for the chance that's given to me. And my question is, you have stated that for the verse, it's better if we write down about the abstract. Is it possible for us to write abstract meanwhile that we don't complete the research yet? So what kind of abstract, especially for the result? Is it just perceptions or just for like hypothesis? Okay, it is the first. And then for the second one, you have explained that, yeah, you make a challenge to us and you said that it's good if we can combine 9 things in different sections, become one. In Indonesia, yeah, we have what's it? It's like a style, yeah, style from Indonesian. They like to write like concept and then methodology and then result in separated sections. And you challenge us to be to make it become one. Is it effective for us, or does what's it reputable journal like that style? Okay, thank you.
Suchiyati, thank you very much. Both of them are very good questions, really good questions. Thank you. So I will answer the second one first. The challenge of writing one sentence and 9 things together, right, Suchiyati? So second question I'll answer first. This challenge of writing one extremely squeezed sentence and long sentence is not for you to send to the journal. It's for your own mind to focus on the topic. So when you are sending it, you will write normal sentences. You can break it into 2 or 3 or 4 sentences, not a problem. So the challenge is for you to get started, not for the journal. So when you submit, you can change it, not a problem, all right? So that's why I said it's challenging, because it will make you think very, very hard, but you don't need to submit it, right? So that's the second question. The first question is the abstract. Yes, you're right. How can you write the full abstract before collecting data, analyzing data, knowing about the findings, even discussing the data? You can't, because you don't even have the data, right, Suchiyati? So again, the same thing. We write the abstract first because it gives us that mindset and that focus of what the paper is about. If the data is not there, if you haven't analyzed, if you don't know the implication, then you can skip that part. Okay, you can write something instead of saying the findings show that blah 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 blah. You can say the findings are likely to inform our understanding of pedagogy and how we can improve our practice, blah blah blah. So you can talk about the potential contribution rather than the actual findings, because you still don't have the findings. So that's okay. It's okay, not a problem. So I'm not saying you need to make up the findings, because if the findings are not there, you can't make it up, right? So it's okay. It's just, again, just for yourself, not for submitting. All right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. So the only one thing I will point out in the introduction is these 2 things, significance and contribution. These 2 are different things. So significance means why the study is needed and why the study is important. We need to talk about that at the beginning, which means in the introduction. But contribution means now that the study is done, how will it contribute? So that's afterwards. So the contribution needs to go to the conclusion, but the significance needs to come to the introduction. So don't mix up these 2 things. That's the only thing I'll ask you to remember, all right? Next part, review of literature, okay? Again, I'm not going to read it. Take a look, and I'll just point out 1 or 2 things and then move on to the next section, which is methodology. If you have any question like Suchiyati, you can ask me now. Hakim, can I check how much time I have left? When do I have to finish?
It's still around like 20 minutes.
Okay, okay.
10 minutes,
right.
okay.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to keep David and everyone else waiting if they finish first. So I want us to finish more or less at the same time, right? Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a signal when David's presentation or session will be ended up.
Okay, you can just kick me out if I'm talking too much.
No.
Okay. So guys, any other question? Any other question about review of literature? Lily has a question. Go ahead,
yes,
Lily.
I have. How about if we put or state the review literature in introduction? Because if in the Indonesian article, we have a gaya selingkuh, or we state like a style guide of a writing article. So we must use review article in introduction. we don't have any like
Yeah.
review what is it, different sections of review article. So how about this? Because I
Okay.
mean that if
Yeah.
we use in Indonesia it's okay, but if we use in journal international, yes, it's a problem. So what should we should we do it for the international journal? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laili. Again, another good question. So thank you, Laili. So the wise thing is, whether it is local or international, you have to follow the journal's guidelines. So JETLI has its own guidelines. It may or may not be like other journals in other countries or even in other places in Indonesia, right? No problem. So if the journal guideline says that you don't need a separate section on lit review, that you should put the lit review in the introduction, then just follow it, not a problem. But most international journals want a dedicated section on lit review, which is separate from introduction. So Laili, just follow the journal guidelines. And as I will show you in my peer review, that is what has happened with one of the two articles. It doesn't have a lit review. And now I understand why, because as Laili said, in Indonesia, sometimes you don't need a separate review of literature, you just put it in the introduction. So just follow whatever guideline the journal is asking you to do, because if you don't do that, then they might reject you, saying, hey, you don't even respect our style, we don't care about publishing you, right? Okay, thank you. So just moving on, once again, the only thing I'll pick up here, two things actually. One is that the review of literature should be critical, not just descriptive. So what I mean by this is, don't just say, you know, Bakhtin said this, Derrida said this, Foucault said this, Chomsky said this, Pennycook said this, Krashen said this. Don't just describe what other people have said. Because if you do that, that's literature, but that's not a review. It's just descriptive. You have to be critical. Now, critical doesn't even mean agree or disagree, agree, disagree, agree, disagree. Critical means you are trying not only to compare, but to blend and synthesize ideas from 2, 3, 4, 5 theorists. And when you do that, at the end of your lit review, you have a section where you almost say, therefore, considering all of these, we can put together this part of this theory and this part of this theory and this part of this theory into an integrated framework. And that integrated framework is called the theoretical framework. And that is why the theoretical framework is the outcome or the result of your review. And that's what I said in my definition in the earlier slide, which you can read about in my article, right? It's the outcome. Okay, methodology. Again, this is probably the easiest section. In a thesis, it can be a whole chapter, but in an article, it's only maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs where you describe, you know, the methodology, the methods, participant recruitment, data collection, analysis procedures, ethical issues, including power relations and conflicts of interest, for qualitative studies, credibility, trustworthiness, for survey or quantitative studies, validity and reliability. This is where you describe it. Not very long, unless if you're doing a thesis. In an article, not very long, but very, very important. So that's the third part. And it is not generic, which means it has to be critical as well. The why is more important than the what. So you can say this is a case study, but you have to say why it's a case study, why it's not an ethnography, for example, right? The fourth section is the analysis. Now, usually in a quantitative study, this is also referred to as presentation or reporting of data. So you have a lot of statistics, tables and stuff like that, numbers and statistics and all of that. Same thing, right? So this is where we analyze data based on themes or discourse features. We look at emerging patterns, We look at similarities, dissimilarities. We look at quotes of what the participant said without repeating them. We try to avoid too many quotes. So that's one problem that might happen. If you have too many quotes in the analysis, it means you are kind of hiding behind the quotes. It's like quotes are speaking by themselves. You have nothing to say. Don't do that. The most important point in the analysis of data section in a research journal article is you don't make citations to the theories here. You make citation to the theories in the literature review. And then later on in the discussion, maybe a little bit in the conclusion, but not in this section. No, right? The fifth section is discussion. And this is usually the hardest one to write, because this is where you have the data, you have the theories, right? Which means your review of literature, and then you are answering the research questions. You don't answer the research questions in the analysis section here. You answer the research questions here. Okay, take a look. Any questions? Okay.
Hi, Raqib. I want to ask you again. It's about discussions. As I know that from my lecturer, the discussion is about stating the finding and then comparing the result of other researcher. Comparing our result of article and other research. So what is the difference between the discussion of this style guide and of your style guide? Thank you.
Thank you, Laili. If you are discussing only on the data from your study, not comparing it with other studies, you do it here. Okay. But if you are discussing or comparing the results of your studies with previous studies' findings, you do it here. Discussion, okay? So this one is just about your own study and the results of your study. This is where, on top of that, you also make references to previous studies, which means results from previous studies. And just like in this section, you don't make many citations to theory. I don't say you don't make at all. I say it's minimal, right? Because it's your data. On the other hand, here, you don't make many citations to your own data. You make it to the data of or the findings of other studies. Because if you make citations to your own data, then you're repeating yourself because you've already done it in the previous section. Why do you want to do it again? Okay, all right. And finally, the conclusion. The conclusion is the shortest section. It provides a summary of the entire paper, but it is not the same as the abstract. Two different things. Make sure the abstract is not the same as the introduction or the conclusion. It could be a combination of both, the abstract, but it is not exactly the same. Now, you may say that the abstract does exactly this. It summarizes the paper. Yes, but the abstract also mentions research questions and context and rationale and etc. Whereas the conclusion is, remember the question, so what? It's mainly about the implications. Okay, so it's not a summary of absolutely everything. For example, although it's a summary, in the conclusion, you don't have to summarize the methodology. No, you don't have to do that. So it's actually not summary of absolutely everything. It's a summary of the persistent findings, the most important findings. Okay, and in this section, conclusion, citations, both theory and data are minimal. So if you have too many citations in conclusion, the journal editor would say, why is it someone else speaking in the conclusion? You are the author. You have to tell me what the contribution is. Why are you making citations here? And my final tip for you is, no matter what topic your article is about. Usually in social sciences, the topic is about an issue, a problem, or something that needs to be resolved, right? So we talk about challenges and issues, etc. usually. So even if it is about a problem, try to end in a positive note. Try to end in a note of hope and optimism, right? In a good note. So that's a good thing. All right. And this is the second last section of my presentation. After that, I'll just do the peer review. Again, because the PowerPoint slides will be shared with all of you, I'm not going to explain everything, but I will show you examples of some of the language issues or the mechanics of writing when you are writing an article. So what are the mechanical issues? So the previous slide was mainly about all of these. These were mainly about the content, right? The content of each section. Now I'll be talking about the language, not the content, okay? Mechanics, here we go. So hedging is very important in social sciences. So avoid saying things like, it has therefore been proved that, or it can be concluded that. In social sciences, which is based on constructivism or interpretivism, right? These are our epistemologies. Unlike in natural sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, medical science, mathematics, we can't say this. Proved that, we can't say this. We have to use things, expressions like this. This is called hedging. It appears that, it is possible that. Findings indicate that, not prove that, indicate that. Evidence suggests that instead of saying proves that, right? This is called hedging, very, very important. In the next 1, 2, 3, 4, in the next 4 slides, I'm showing you examples of the most common mechanical problems, so language problems in writing an article. Again, in a workshop, I would have given you some exercises to do it in front of me, but now it's not possible. So I just want you to look at these, and if you have any questions, ask me. So the next 4 slides, I'll just show it to you for 1 minute and then move on to the next. If you have any question, you can ask me. You can even ask me later on after the session is over. And you will get a copy of this, so you can just use it as a checklist once again. So this is very common. Everyone knows that in this day or age, in these times of rapid change, these are cliches. Avoid this type of language. And this one again, no supporting evidence. Remember what David said at the opening speech? No one cares about what you think. It has to be backed up by evidence. Exactly what I'm saying here. And this one, lack of critical reflection on what is read. Remember what I said? Review of literature must be critical, not descriptive, not just A said this, B said this, C said this. It has to be more than that. And this is, yeah, there's one more after that. And then we have this, cultural insensitivity, poor referencing, scholarly referencing, and repetitions. Okay. Now, in the next 2 slides, so these were examples of the most common types of mistakes. In the next 2 slides, I will give you examples of how to establish logical argument and counter argument, 2 different things. Logical argument, which means argument supported by evidence, what kind of language to use. Now, remember guys, it doesn't matter what topic you've chosen. These mechanics will apply to everything. Even those of you who are doing a thesis, this applies to your thesis as well. So here's the first one, language for logical argument. Now, we all know how to use this. Grammatically speaking, very easy, very easy, very easy, we use it. But do we actually use it strategically? Do we use it opportunistically? Or sometimes we don't even use it. So logical argument. And finally, counter argument. Look at all these expressions. So some are very easy, but on the other hand, however, but do we use expressions such as these? You can print these out and use it as a checklist so that next time you're writing an article, you strategically and deliberately use these expressions. And finally, I'll finish in 5 minutes. Hakim, is that all right? 5 minutes?
Yes, it is, because David will also end his session at 10:30 here. I mean, like, what time is it there?
Oh, it's
like around 15 minutes. 15 minutes left. I think David will end up his session 15 minutes left.
Okay, I'll finish before him. That's okay. But
okay,
you know,
sure.
We can just use the remaining time for Q&A, so not a problem. Okay, good. So Hakim sent me 3 articles that have recently been submitted to JETLI for peer review. They haven't been accepted. As you know, any good journal like JETLI will do a blind peer review, which means the reviewers will never know who the writers of these articles are. So I don't know who the authors of these 2 articles are that I have reviewed. It could be Hakim, or it could be Ida, or Lisa, or Suchiyati, or Tadris, or anyone else, right? So it could be anyone, but the whole idea of blind peer review makes sure that it is an objective process and it is not unfair to anyone. So even if I send an article to JETLI, the reviewer wouldn't know that it is, you know, an academic from Monash University. So we must treat him with special consideration because it's our honor to have an article from a Monash University academic. No, it won't happen. Everyone will be treated equally because their names have been removed. So the authors don't know I'm the reviewer and I don't know who the authors are. So I'm going to show you in the next 2 slides my review of these 2 articles, the main points. And in relation to what I said earlier, I will show you that there might be issues that you can avoid before you submit your article. And before I show the examples, I just wanted to say that, you know, I have done hundreds of blind peer reviews, and I always do it in a respectful way, in a constructive way. And the objective is to help the author to improve their writing. And therefore, the focus is more on the limitations or issues rather than things that they've done well. Because if I praise the article a lot, it's not very helpful. It is only helpful when I actually point out the problems. So I'd like to start by saying both of the articles are actually quite good, but there are issues. So let's talk at the issues. So this is the first paper. The first paper that has been submitted for peer review is called Task-Based Language Teaching, Potential Benefits and Possible Criticisms in Indonesian Contexts. Okay, so as a reviewer, the first thing I do is I look at the title and say, TBLT, is that a hot topic or a cold topic? And then I say, okay, it could be hot, it could be cold, depends on the twist. And then I say, okay, possible benefits, criticism, Indonesian context. And then I say, oh yeah, it's hot because it's about Indonesia. And I don't know about many articles on TBLT in Indonesia. So, okay, let's read it. It's quite good. So I start reading and then I find out some issues, such as the aim of this paper, which calls itself a conceptual review article, which means the article is based on a conceptual review, a literature review, rather than data. So we have empirical papers, which are based on data from interviews or observations, focus group discussions, surveys, etc. Data, right? These are called empirical papers. This one is a non-empirical paper because it is based on a review. That's fine, not a problem. Not all papers need to be based on empirical data. So this is non-empirical paper. It says the aim is to delineate and reverberate, which is a confusing term because it doesn't actually tell me what the paper is doing. The core concepts of TBLT, and I'm thinking, no, this is not new. There are hundreds of papers on this, okay? So yeah, I'm not impressed. As a leading representation of CLT, okay, we already know that, nothing new. and its benefits to English, nothing new. In Indonesia, I say, oh yes, new, that's good. So we've got a paper that has given an old topic a twist and turned it into something more original. So I say, okay, this is good. The introduction is too long. The context can be removed to later section. Now, Laili mentioned a little while ago that in Indonesia, a lot of journals actually ask you to put the context and even the literature review in the introduction. So if the JETLI journal guide allows that, not a problem, it's okay. However, although it is a conceptual review article, there is no literature review. I mean, there is a little bit of literature in the introduction, but that's not really a review of literature. The methodology, only one single long paragraph. Now, I said that the methodology doesn't have to be a long section. So it's not a problem that it is one paragraph, but it is the paragraph itself is too long. It should have been broken into two. And then there is a repetition of the aim here. We don't want you to talk about repetition in the method. The method should be in the introduction. Sorry, the aim should be in the introduction, right? Okay. The advanced organizer should not be here, but at the end of introduction. So what is advanced organizer? Advanced organizer is where you say, in this article, I will first do this, then I will do this, then I will do this, finally I will do this, right? Outline. That's called the advanced organizer. So the advanced organizer shouldn't be in the method section. It should be in the introduction. And then there is a difference between systematic review and conceptual paper. These two are a little different, and I could see some confusion about that as well. So that's one set of issues. The second set of issues is the way the paper has been structured itself, especially the middle section. So we have result and discussion. Under result and discussion, we have this section, see, defining CLT, TBLT, 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 each on different aspects. And because it says that it talks about the benefits of TBLT, therefore the sections are based on the benefit. So this one is general, this one is general. And then this is the benefit, this is the benefit, this is the benefit, okay? So it's not really that bad, but the biggest problem is, in this section, the most common person whose name must come when talking about TBLT. So we have Rod Ellis, we have Shintani. These are the big names in TBLT. There is another big name, Prabhu. Prabhu has not been mentioned. So it's almost like you're talking about, let's say, identity, and you're not bringing in Stuart Hall. Remember Hakim? EDF 5640, Stuart Hall.
Yes, it is a must.
It's a must, exactly. So if you talk about identity, how can you not even talk about Stuart Hall? If you're talking about post-colonialism, Edward Said. If you're talking about power, Foucault, I mean, these are kind of obvious. So for TBLT, Prabhu is missing. And as a peer review, I'm saying, okay, that's not right. It's like that. For me, the biggest problem for this article was this. It was generic. There is no mention of Indonesia, other than one reference in this section and one reference, Saputro, in this section, right? In this section, in this section, in this section, in these three sections, Indonesia is not mentioned at all. Although the aim of the paper is to show the benefit of TBLT to English learning in Indonesia, but Indonesia is entirely missing. It's not there. Okay. So the paper is a good one, a good discussion, fairly good methodology, review of literature missing, but it's actually there, embedded within the introduction. Okay, it's a structural thing, not a big thing. But the aim that you promised at the beginning, you haven't fulfilled it because you haven't talked about the EFL scenario or context of Indonesia. There is nothing about Indonesia in this paper. Now, can this paper be fixed? Oh, yes. It's not very easy, but it's not very difficult. So as a peer reviewer, I would say either change the topic or the scope of your paper or put in references to Indonesia. Otherwise, you are not fulfilling the aim that you promised. There is nothing about Indonesia. Only 2 references, not enough, right? Okay. Here's the second paper. I'm nearly done. Okay. So the second paper is about uncovering the nexus between language, culture, identity differences in the context of ethnical self-experience. Okay, beautiful title. So the research method for this paper is mentioned as self-study research. I would say it's a methodology, not a method. Method is the instrument that we use to collect data. And in this case, the method is personal writing, discuss with critical friends, study group discussion session. So these are within inverted comma means these are taken directly from the paper. It's not my quotation, it's actually mentioned there. So it is a methodology, right? So I would actually use autoethnography instead of self-study research. It's not a big deal, but the proper term is autoethnography. Self-study research is fine, but this is a suggestion. Good references from Stuart Hall and Cramsey's work, unlike Prabhu in the previous, because for this language, culture, identity, Stuart Hall is like a must. For task-based language teaching, Prabhu is a must. Okay. Most of the literature review is already widely known. So the author says, findings of this study show that these 3 have a robust language. Of course, it's not new. Now you can say that, not a problem, but you have to identify the gap. There has to be a gap. The literature review is mostly descriptive rather than critical. Again, remember what I said in the lit review section? Don't just say, he said this, she said this, they said this. No, you have to be critical. Contribution is missing. Why should it matter to the reader? So the rationale for the study, okay? Very easy to fix, not a problem. The method is based on, I think, a personal experience of some foreigners meeting, an elderly person in a pesantren, I think, 6 years ago. And the author says that the method is personal writing, discussed with critical friends, study group session, but I couldn't see any evidence of that. So the data sources are vague. They're not clear. Again, it's not a big problem. It just needs to be specified. Oh, here. So the findings are based on just one single quote, okay? One single vignette, which means a story from 6 years ago, but there is no reason provided as to why this particular incident was so significant. Again, it's very easy to fix. But if you don't provide the reason, then it's like, why is it? It's just random. Why this one? Why not a different thing? And in the discussion section, you know, it's like you have discussion, and right after discussion, you have analysis and reflection. So as I showed in my previous slide, analysis comes first, discussion is after that. Okay. Now, reflection and discussion can be together, but analysis and discussion are not the same thing. They are 2 different things functionally. So they have to be shown as different. And finally, these are my last 2 slides. So what are some of the topics that are considered hot in 2021 that you can choose for your research? Now, this is not a complete list. This is just a tiny list, and it is only based on my interests. There are many, many other topics. So there's nothing to discuss here. This is just a suggestion. If it aligns with any of your interests, you can use them. So you will get a copy of the PowerPoint, no need to write, but you can take a photo if you want. And here is another, you know, it's just a long list, so I just put it in 2 different slides. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. My email address on the left and my social media, including Instagram, on the right. You can feel free to add me, but thank you very much. So back to you, Hakim, the boss.
Okay, thank you very much for your delightful explanation about how to write a properly scholarly paper. And then, as we have scheduled that we will have a general session Q&A with David in one group. So I just want to maybe just say what Raqib has explained to all of us, that firstly we have to, if we want to start writing in a reputable publishers or in academic journal, we have to know the reasons why we should do publishing, especially for academic journal. And then also Raqib has explained about how to start writing for publications, starting from choosing the topic, and then how to construct a robust abstract, because it is very important, because it will attract the reader to explain the rest of your article from that abstract. And then also we have a challenge from Raqib to make a package of some elements in academic writing to be put in only one sentence, right? So I'll take it and I'll do as well.
All right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Wonderful, Hakim. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I want to try to do that regularly, because it's like what you said, it will develop our critical mindset to think about some elements to be put in one sentence. And also you explain about the structure, its structure that you have to consider if you want to publish in a reputable journal article or journal publishers. And then also Raqib explained about most common errors or language issues in writing academic articles, like hedging, signposting, and etc. And also he have reviewed 2 papers that have been submitted in JETLI, and we will send the review result from Raqib to the author, so that the author can revise and also develop the paper before we publish the papers. And then Raqib also provide us, thank you so much for your suggestions on topics that we can consider to be written for future writing, like in TESOL or ESL field. It will be very helpful for all of us. Okay, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of this session, and I'd like to say thank you again for Raqib for his insightful talk. And I think I will call the operator to send us to the main room so that we can gather there with David as well. Okay, wait a moment. I'll do that. Okay, any comments maybe, Raqib, before we go to the main room?
I'll just look forward to some questions from the audience when we get back to the main room, but just wanted to, as a general comment, I wanted to say that those of you who still haven't published, it's not as difficult as you think. Don't aim too high for your first or second or third publication. Go local. Consider JETLI as a possible journal article, as a possible journal. Choose a topic that is not necessarily the best, the hottest topic, but something that you care about, something that you already know about. So I'm being positive. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to tell you that when I wrote my first journal article, like most of you here, I was also a master's student. I had 0 publications. I didn't have a PhD. I never even wrote a thesis, not even a thesis, right? So how did I write that journal? I based it on one of my assignments, because I thought, okay, it doesn't have empirical research. It doesn't have any data, but it's a critical review about whether grammar is needed or not in the CLT class. So can I turn it into an article? How do I turn it into an article? Let me look at an article and see, put it side by side. So my assignment and the journal article. And then I look at the structure and try to transfer the structure of the journal article into my assignment and change the language and the length and the sequencing, those 5 sections. So guys, it is not as difficult as you think. And if you persist a little bit, by the time you finish your master's, you will have at least a couple of articles published. And guess what? If you have a number of articles, there is a good chance you will get a scholarship to do your, your master's or maybe a PhD at a university overseas, including in Australia, maybe even at Monash. So I look forward to seeing some of you at Monash, and I'm sure, inshallah, Hakim someday will be back to Monash, just like some of my old PhD students, and do a PhD from Monash as well. I've already finished supervising 4 PhD students from Indonesia. They're already back. They're already doctors. I'm supervising 3 of them at the moment. No, 2 of them, and the third one is about to start in a few months. She just got a scholarship. So she will be my number 8 or number 9 PhD student from Indonesia. And it's a great learning experience. So when you think about publishing, see it as a happy experience, not something like it's like a chore. I have to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm only doing it because it's part of my study or because I want to get a job or whatever. Look at the bigger side. It will empower you. It will make you feel better. And most of all, the joy of creating something, not an assignment. It's like, you have created something, you've published something, and hundreds of readers are reading. It's a wonderful feeling. You can't compare it with anyone else. So I just wanted to finish with a positive tone, that all the things that I've told you about in my presentation is not to scare you or to show you how difficult it is, but to tell you that if you follow some guidelines, it's easy and it's very rewarding. It's a very fulfilling experience. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you for your closing statement in this session. I'll call the operator to move us to the main room, actually. Okay, hopefully I'll pursue my doctoral degree at Monash again.
I hope I'll see you here, Hakim.
As what Yenny's did right now, right?
Yenny is,
yeah,
yes.
Yenny. What about Yenny?
Yeah, Yenny is doing very well. I mean, we had a meeting yesterday. So Hakim is referring to Yenny Carolina, who's from Surakarta, Solo, and she is in her final year of PhD. And her final milestone is only 3 months away, and she will be finishing hopefully in the middle of 2022 next year.
Oh, wow.
And she's one of my best students. She's really good. She works very hard. She writes very well, and she's looking at the PPG program in an institute in Solo, and the professional identity development of teachers and new teachers in Indonesia. She's doing very well, Hakim.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that because I know Yenny well, because we do footy together back when I was there.
That's great. I was in Makassar with Afdal and Dayat.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
That's your last trip to Indonesia, right? I mean,
that was I went there twice. So the last one would be the one in Jogja and Palopo. But the one with Afdal, they took me to Toraja and Lolai and Negeri atas the one.
That's really like good scenery, because you took like beautiful photos there, right? With the Toraja sculpture. And Okay. Hopefully you can visit us here in Kudus. It's northern part. Yeah, it's northern part of Central Java.
Yes, I know. So Hakim, you have to show me around, and
sure.
You have to give me a good taste of the local food in Kudus. If you promise, then I can come.
Of course, I'll do that.
So is the local food of Kudus mainly manis or pedas?
It tends to be sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. Tends to be sweet, but yeah.
I'm sure I'll love it.
Okay, I'll show you some like beautiful places as well.
Thank you, Hakim. Thank you. I might actually, I've been planning to come to Indonesia as soon as Australia opens to the rest of the world. So since March last year, we don't have any flights in or out of Australia, but flights are back. I will come back to Indonesia. It's my favorite country to visit, and I'll see you hopefully as well.
Yes, it is. Some of my friends, they haven't been able to start or to begin the study in Australia because of that restriction. The border has not opened yet, and yeah, but congratulations, because the lockdowns just
Yeah,
ended,
thank you,
ended
Hakim.
yesterday.
In fact, Hakim, one of my other PhD student, her name is Truli Pasaribu. She's from Sanata Dharma University, Jogja. She started her PhD in April this year, and she hasn't even ever been to Monash. She started while she's there, so we meet once every 2 weeks on Zoom. And she's a PhD student. It's already been 5 months now, but she has never been to Monash because there are no flights.
Yes, that's very challenging, especially for doctoral degree students.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
wait a moment. Yeah, wait a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.